Just in here on our Ravens Rundown, outside linebacker Tyus Bowser has been released by the Baltimore Ravens after missing all of the 2023 season with a knee injury. The move to release Bowser will save the Ravens $5.5 million in cap space, something that they need a lot of after the signing of Derrick Henry and also the new deal for Justin Madubuike and trying to bring in more free agents and got to sign their draft picks and all that. No surprise to see the Ravens move on from Bowser. The right call, quite frankly. More to come on the latest Ravens moves, including a restructuring of Ronnie Stanley. We'll talk about right now here on this edition of Ravens Rundown. Breaking news here on a Ravens Rundown. The Baltimore Ravens have a new deal in place with offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley, restructuring his current contract, which will reduce his cap hit from $26.2 million. The news coming from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler this morning. Fowler tweeting out the following. The Ravens and former All-Pro left tackle Ronnie Stanley have agreed to a reworked contract per sources. He was due $15 million this year. He now plays on less in base pay, but has an upside potential to reach or surpass that number. The $26.2 million cap hit will be reduced. So when you look at this from the Ravens' perspective, getting this deal done for Ronnie Stanley, it just made sense, right? I know that we had talked about Stanley's name as a potential cut candidate, that was talked about, but based on the money and the dead cap hit that they would have taken on, it didn't really make sense for the Ravens to straight up cut Ronnie Stanley here. The best interest for this Ravens team with the need that they have at the offensive line and with the money that worked for Ronnie Stanley, their best case scenario was to restructure his deal to get a little breathing room in that cap room for other free agents and also to be able to sign their draft picks. It just didn't make a ton of financial sense to pay Ronnie Stanley to take on a $26 million cap hit. So credit to Eric DeCosta and the Ravens and Ronnie Stanley for being able to work this out, because you think about this, we're still waiting on some cap numbers to kind of catch up how things play out with what they've done with this move with Ronnie Stanley, because the details weren't released yet, and also the Derrick Henry situation of what his cap number is going to take on. But before the Derrick Henry signing yesterday, the Ravens cap number was negative $180,000. So as you can tell, with the league year beginning today, that the Ravens needed to move some money around in order just to be able to get these signings done and for other potential free agents here. So I like it for the Ravens. This is a win-win. We'll talk more about Ronnie Stanley in just a moment. We'll go over his numbers. But before we do any of that, I want to get your one-word reaction. What do you guys think of the Ravens deal getting done with Ronnie Stanley? I'll give you my one word in just a moment, but want to hear from you guys first. Weigh in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Folks, this is why you subscribe to a Ravens Rundown. We are all over free agency here this offseason, as we are your Ravens free agency headquarters. Anytime the Ravens make a move like we did yesterday with Derrick Henry or this restructuring with Ronnie Stanley, whatever it may be, doesn't matter how big or how small the deal is, we'll cover it all here on a Ravens Rundown. Subscribe now. Join the family. Help us reach our next milestone, 16,000 subs. We're getting very close to reaching that next marker. Join the family for the latest happenings. We'll lock us in. We'll keep you covered all offseason long right here on Baltimore Ravens Rundown. My one-word reaction is expected. I thought that in the Baltimore Ravens case that Ronnie Stanley has, been a good player at times, right? We saw him play at an all-pro level back in 2019 and a Pro Bowler and all that. And this was a case where the way his cap hit would have taken on had you the dead money if you released him, it just didn't make a ton of sense for the Ravens to move on from him. The thing, though, I'll say, is that it's very obvious when you talk about Ronnie Stanley, a guy, we know his potential, right? We mentioned a Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro back in 2019, former first-round pick and everything. Like, we know what he can be. But can he fulfill his potential. This is somebody that's played in just 31 total games in the last 4 seasons. It's been a revolving door at that left tackle position. And for the Baltimore Ravens to commit to Ronnie Stanley, to restructure this deal, to keep him aboard, they need more out of Ronnie Stanley. Plain and simple. Think about this. In the 8 games that we did see Ronnie Stanley play in 2023, what did he have to offer? I mean, let's be frank. It was not a good year for Ronnie Stanley last year. His grade, according to PFF, was a 63.7. He allowed 21 hurries, 3 hits on the quarterback, and 4 sacks allowed last year. For a guy that's being paid all-pro caliber money, former first-round pick that has that expectation, he didn't play up to his potential, the standard that was expected out of him. It's twofold when it comes to Ronnie Stanley here, right? Number one, it's just being out there. The Ravens need him more than just 31 games in a 4-year stretch, right? The expectation should be Ronnie Stanley needs to be out there for every single game and be dependable for what they're paying him at that position. That's expectation number one. Number two is the performance on the field. I mean, to put it quite simply, Ronnie Stanley needs to play better. They need more, especially when you consider what is the number one priority for the Baltimore Ravens this offseason. What is the biggest concern or issue for this team over these next couple of weeks? It is the offensive line and what they're about to lose and trying to replace that offensive line and create a good run blocking lanes for Derrick Henry and give Lamar Jackson time to throw the football here. Ronnie Stanley is going to be the heart and soul of this offensive line, the leader of sorts, the guy that they turn to, and they're going to need him to play at his best and to be available, something that we haven't seen in the last couple seasons, if we're going to be honest with you. What is your grade for Ronnie Stanley's new deal with the Ravens? I'll give you my grade here in just a bit, but what I hear from you guys first, way in the comment section, let us know what you think. A, B, C, D, or F. I know it might be hard to grade without knowing the full details, but just the fact that we know the cap number is going down, that's a win. Give me your grade in the comment section below. My grade for the Baltimore Ravens, for what they did here, I'll give it a B here because you took care of business, right? You got what you needed to get done. You get that relief you're looking for, and you keep a guy that we know can be good, okay? To me, that is something that needed to be done, and a guy that has potential here, I'll take it for what it's worth. We'll see what the full details are, but it's a solid B for now. So, to this point, here's what the Ravens have done so far in free agency. Justin Madubuike got that 4-year, $98 million deal. Initially got the franchise tag. A couple days later, EDC was able to get a deal done with Madubuike. Big deal to lock him up long term. Malik Harrison with a 1-year deal to stick around, special teams ace. And then Derrick Henry with the 2-year, $16 million deal, $9 million guaranteed. And with Derrick Henry, I love that they didn't spend a ton. They got one of, if not the best running backs of the market, the guy they wanted, and at only $8 million for 2 years. I love it. I think that EDC has done a solid job so far. I know that losing Patrick Queen was expected, and you don't like the idea of him going to a division rival. That's the only kind of head-scratcher here at this point, was that they did not find a way to trade him last offseason or to get a long-term deal done when they, a while back. That's kind of the big head-scratcher at this point. But otherwise, so far, so good for Eric DeCosta, especially considering the limitations when it comes to cap space at this point. Subscribe now to a Ravens Rundown. If they make any more moves, we're going to talk about it here on the channel. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.